Alrighty, hello everyone. This is going to be a long haul for the Amaurot dungeon visual guide. I'll be your host, Tigris, and let's get this started. So, as you haven't noticed, the video is quite long. It was actually roughly 42 minutes, and I dropped it down to less than 30. So, on that regard, thank you guys so much for watching my previous visual guides, and with this it's going to be a little bit better than the rest. Of course, I always try to make them better than the last one. Let's get started. So I'm going to start off with Dancer from the first section all the way to the first boss, and then from there we're going to move on to a different job. So the idea behind this dungeon is the world is pretty much ending, or at least the alternate world is ending. So we're kind of here on an NPC's reply to kind of fix the issue. And along the way we go through MSQ content, but all of that is basically a story for another day. It's going to be a long commentary, so excuse me if I pause in between sections to just kind of catch my breath, drink a little bit of water. The early sections of this dungeon is pretty simple. You basically kill mobs, they spawn some more, and then you move on to the next section. You sometimes will find ads that are tethered to certain players, typically to healer or DPS. The ad that we're tethered to right now is a bomb. They typically self-destruct, dealing room-wide, or I believe it's melee range, damage to anybody nearby, so you can see there. Typically the best way to deal with them is to basically move them away from the rest of the group if you're playing a ranged or a DPS melee, and take care of them that way. Or alternatively, you could just move them straight to where the tank is and have everybody do AoE damage along with it. Just make sure you auto attack it for extra deeps. They do moderate AoE damage, the bombs anyway, so healer be advised, you're going to be doing a little bit of healing on top of it. It's kind of like a mini tank buster to the rest of the group. So here I was waiting for the tank to see if he was going to grab the first section and then, you know, alternatively move on to the next mob group, but he just stayed with these. That is perfectly fine, and then I actually appreciate it because I think he thought that by me allowing the cutscene sequences, he thought that I was a new player. It's like checking for ID, going to buy some alcohol, right? Oh, you're checking my ID, huh, buddy? Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. So the next section has an ad that will tether to typically the healer, typically on average. And then this guy is a sprite. Every time he's tethered to someone, the healing and the DPS on a targeted tethered will be debuffed. It will be lowered. If it's tethered to a healer, both actions will be basically making them pretty damn vulnerable to healing and also doing damage. Again, just like the previous one, focus them down and then swap to the AoE or the rest of the enemies. In this dungeon, do advise a lot of room-wide or telegraph or even ground AoE circles, so be very advised, dance around as you need to. While I take another sip of water, it's going to be a long haul video. Alright, first boss is the First Beast. This is basically a dungeon rush. He's going to greet you with a forward cleave of sorts. I call this a tank buster. It's going to inflict poison if it actually hits you. and it typically only targets the tank or whomever has the highest enmity. Next up is Meteor Rain, the boss event. Make sure you reposition to the edges of the platform, but not to the edges. Make sure you leave some room, because next up is Falling Sky. That's going to drop boulders on the ground on those locations. Now these boulders will make you survive the final sky, which will basically drop a meteor at the boss's location. Make sure you're behind the boulders, otherwise there is a high chance of you insta-dying to the meteor impact. Next up is Crash Warning, Heavy Rain. It's not actually called that, but it basically drops a building on the platform. Typically you're going to find the safety zone all the way across from where the opposite of the boss is. Next up is Earthquake, a melee AoE. It's very easily avoidable. Venomous Breath once more. Another Meteor Rain boss event. This time it comes with a second helping of circles on the ground. Make sure you avoid them as you set up your boulder locations. Now the boulder locations have a proximity warning. As proximities go, make sure you get as far away from them as possible. Another final sky. The idea is to stay behind the boulder. You may suffice a bit of damage from the circles on the ground, but you will survive from those. Just make sure you're behind the boulders. Get to a safe location afterwards, or that building will fall on you. The highest chances of you surviving is only with the tank. Everybody else, it is instant death. Another Earthquake, move out of melee. Venomous Breath typically only targets the tank. I've never actually been hit with the poison before, but I could imagine it's very deadly. Another Meteor Rain. So the active time also has a no stack circles after the meteors have impacted. And here they are. So no stack circles. Make sure you avoid everything as possible right before the actual meteor starts to come down. And with that, that's the first boss. Now it's up with the Astrologian. We're going to heal through the second phase all the way up to the second boss. Now, just like I mentioned before, the sprite ads that tether onto the healer typically, they will lower your healing output and also your DPS. So mind you of that, make sure you bring the sprite along with the rest of your group, or at least near the tank, so they can do extra damage. Your healing will be reduced, but it is manageable. Just be as cooperative as possible. Bear in mind that there are still plenty of telegraphs and or AoE markers that you need to avoid. My tank was a little bit of a butterfinger on his invuln there, but everything is fine. Again, if you like this sort of stuff, give me a shout out on the comments below. If there's anything that you want to request, I'll take those. I also take requests from Discord. If you guys want to join my FC, you can go ahead and subscribe first, join the Discord, and then go ahead and send an invite. You must be in BRYNHILDR and must have no alt characters otherwise. I want to stick to a very steady flow of characters without actual alts on other servers. This is up to you, and it is optional. You don't have to actually have to only have one character. Just keep in mind the no alts while you're in the FC. The ads at this point are pretty similar. The tank is taking it easy on me, so it's not as hectic as it could be. If you guys are also interested, everything you see on the screen is done by me. I do all of the icons, all the pictures, the astrologian icon on the left bottom corner. That is done by me. I do take artwork from the internet, but mostly everything else is customized by yours truly, so it does take a bit of time, and that also adds into the video quality. I want it to always be better every single time I make another video, so it takes a bit of dedication. So the bomb exploded there. It was very close to the rest of the party members, so everyone took AoE damage, but it is moderate damage, so I just heal through it. So we're coming up here up against the second boss. The second boss is kind of a strange situation because you're not actually fighting a boss the majority of the time. I call this a ad gauntlet. And you're about to see what I mean here real soon. Terminus Bellwether. It is a giant cockatrice, I believe, from Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy Tactics also had it. After a few seconds, it will immediately do a shriek, room-wide AoE, and it begins a 3-phase ad gauntlet. We have 2 bombs, each facing a DPS. So go ahead and stack those. Try not to stack both of them at once, and avoid killing them both at once, because that might actually kill the rest of your party. But as with before, make sure you focus them down before you actually kill anything else. And heal as through if you're the healer through this. So we got some sprites this time. Make sure you focus the sprites, but bring them along with the party so everybody can do AoE damage to it. Honestly, this is a mess. It's honestly just avoid telegraphs, avoid everything before you actually do any damage. If you're playing the healer, prioritize healing the tank. Don't worry too much about the DPS unless they are in critical state, and just avoid everything possible. And the final wave of ads. It's just a mess, honestly. Let me take another sip of water. Alright, final ad before the boss re-enters the arena. And now we have a DPS check. It's basically a time where you need to do the most amount of damage before the boss does its finisher, and everybody might possibly die. It is called Burst, heal through before DPS. I recommend healing everyone off to 100%, quote unquote topping them off, otherwise this might happen to you. So as you can see there, I almost died. If I was any less than 90% health, I would have been dead. So that was the second boss. Moving on to the next. Finally, we're playing Dark Knight. This is the last section and the final boss. We have a bomb here, and it's typically tethered to the DPS. And hopefully they stay along with the group. One bomb is no big deal, as long as you have mitigations as tank and a decent off globals available as healer. 2 bombs is sketchy. I highly recommend not grabbing this many mobs unless you have a decent item level and a good understanding of how to tank. Otherwise, your healer may have a bit too much on their plate. And I also make mistakes here, obviously. But it is fairly controllable if you have all of your off globals. And as you can see there in the background, we have the final boss peppering at us from a distance. It's quite an annoying predicament we have, but we have to live with it. The last section of this boss fight is a bit lengthy, and you're going to see why much later on. But for now, let's move on to the next second phase of ads. So just like similarly to the next ones, we're going to have tethered ads, and I believe this time is sprites. No sprites, no ads. Honestly, there's not much else to talk about. It's just ads. We focus them down. If you're running low on off globals or mitigation tools, make sure you tell your tank or you do not grab this many ads, because they do hurt. Ouchai. The key idea in these fights is to avoid telegraphs, avoid forward cleaves, avoid everything before you actually do your rotation. And if you can do both at the same time, more power to you. I tried to change his positional there so I didn't have to actually bother to avoid a telegraph, but it backfired on me. And the melee had to reposition thanks to my fault. So, final boss fight, Therion, Environmental Gauntlet, you're going to see here shortly. Honestly, it's a mess. Just like the ad phase, this guy is a pain in the ass every single time I fight him. I have no script for this, I'm just kind of making things up as I go from previous memory and such. So first up is Shadowwreck, is a room-wide AoE. He's going to be using this quite often throughout the fight. Now is the Apocalypse's boss active event. There's a few things with this. The first thing is a warning of a fall equals death. The platform, as you can see, has an edge. If you fall over the edge, you die. That's the first thing. The platforms glow on the exterior. If they glow the first time, you're fine if you're on them. If they glow the second time while you're on them and you do an apocalypsis, you are going to fall. That jump that he did there, he is going to burn the rest of the platforms behind him. If you're anywhere in that platform while it's burning, you're going to take a damage over time and a doom. Deathly Ray sides, it's best to use them during a sideways camera, as you can see here. Otherwise, you won't be able to see squat. After that, he's going to do a Shadow Wreck and another Deathly Ray, this one a Fronto. And you're going to see why these sideways cameras work best here. If the ray actually targets you, you're going to basically lose all eyesight. Between the two rays, you're going to have 2 circle ground telegraph circles. You're going to need to avoid that if you're DPS. Another apocalypsis. Make sure you do not fall off the edge on your way to the side platforms. Ideally, you want to move to the side platforms if you're not Dark Knight, which they can pretty effectively negate the whole damage behind that. So as you can see there, the Doom goes off if you're anywhere in that fire emitted on the ground behind the boss. Another ray, as you can see there, your eyesight is completely shut if you look at him directly from the front, so it's best played on the side. Another room-wide AoE. Deathly Ray going from the front. After the ray, 2 of the circles on the ground show up on the DPS, and then another ray comes up afterwards. Another room-wide AoE. Apocalypsis. Make sure the platform that you're going to be standing on is not glowing, otherwise you're dead. Deathly Ray on the sides, you can tell by the masks that spawn on the left and right side. And they alternate. So wherever it hit first, go ahead and jump into that area so you avoid the second phase. Another room wide. Deathly Ray front. Notice how there's no masks on the side. The 2 circles. So if the DPS is dead, next up is the healer. That gets the second circle. And the ladder for the tank. Another room wide. He uses this quite often, as you can see. At this point, it's just a boss rush. Before you run out of platforms, I'm not entirely sure if he stops using the apocalypsis if you run out of side platforms, but I don't want to find out. It is pretty much the same mechanics over and over again till either you are dead or he is dead. This is post commentary. I know exactly what's about to happen now. I don't want to ruin it for the rest of you, but my healer is dead. I tried to save the ninja there, but that didn't work out so well. The monk probably won't survive the apocastasis or the apocalypsis, and yeah, he falls down to his death from the collapsed platform. So it's just me and the boss. That's the main reason why this is going to last so long of a video. But I do not cut this for a good reason. It is possible to solo this boss. The probability of soloing this through all the tanks is ideal through Dark Knight. Dark Knight has the Blackest Night, which basically allows you to survive a whole lot of mechanics that otherwise would kill you over time quickly. Another thing is possibly high item level and an understanding of how to actually play the DPS section of tanking. While you have these beams on you and solely you can go ahead and strafe left and right as the beams spawn to completely mitigate them, or at least only take minimal damage. Another room-wide AoE. It's only hitting me this time. The monk has the front row seat to the action, so that gave me kind of a smile, and it kind of distracted me from the fight halfway. I can see it now. He's eating some popcorn. This is very entertaining. So I tried to burn most of my Blackest Night shield there, but it didn't work out. I just took extra damage for no reason. Another room wide. Definitely Ray. It is frontal, so I'm going to strafe to the right. It's only hitting me this time. Let's move on to the left with the circle telegraphs. Let's strafe to the right again. Stand in that circle so I can blow my shield. Otherwise, I just burned 3,000 mana for no reason. And here I don't notice the third section of my off globals because I got distracted from the monk having a perfect view of the action. Lucky dog. Anyway, I finally noticed my abyssal drain here and I use it. These beams on the sides are always a 50-50, trying to figure out which ones go first, but once you know which one goes first, the second ones are pretty easy to figure out, so you just move into position. And this is effectively how you solo this boss from 30% health all the way down. At this point, honestly, it's anyone's game. If I make one mistake, it's over. Great location for Limit Break Execute. Hello world, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe here. You can also donate if you're interested in supporting the channel. There's some more content for you to watch on the right side. If you're interested in joining my FC, the TEMPEST TALONS, the info is in the top left. I'm mostly taking invites from my YouTube channel subs. And as always, y'all take care and good luck out there.